Welcome to Catholic Life as we spotlight ordinary people with extraordinary faith. I'm Dina Dow, your host, and we are celebrating Catholic Schools Week this week with distinguished administrators and educators as we journey through Catholic Schools Week. With us in our first segment is Dr. Patty Davis. She is the Superintendent of Catholic Schools, finishing up almost your first year now.
That's right.
As our new Superintendent of Catholic Schools, and Ms. Erin Candilora, who is Distinguished Administrator this year, your principal at St. Aloysius Schools. So thank you so much for being here, and congratulations on this wonderful honor. I'm not surprised, and it's just such a blessing to have both of you here. So before we get started, let's talk about Catholic Schools Week, Dr. Patty, because this is an annual event that we do every year to celebrate Catholic schools. And this year, it's January 29th to February 4th,
right.
2023. Yeah. So tell us kind of what's happening during that week in our diocese.
You know, this isn't only in our diocese. This is a nationwide event, and we're in the 49th year. I'm very excited to say that. You know, this is a week that we take across the nation to celebrate all the good things and the good news of Catholic education. So it's our one week that we really say thank you to our parents and all the constituents and pastors and administrators for the good work that they do. So it's wonderful because we showcase these things through events, special mass, TV shows like this. So, you know, it is a great week for us because we're all in the celebration mode. And, you know, after being 2 years kind of not able to be together, so this is a wonderful moment for us to share and to be together in person and say, hey, this is wonderful job you're doing, and this is the way we recognize special people like Miss Candilora in her job as principal, and we also will recognize Pastor for his good work, and that's Father Michael Alello.
From St. Thomas More.
Our educator will be honored, Joshua Zeringue. Yes. So I'm trying to get through my points I want to make, but you know, starting with this 49th year, you know, we'll have some events on the diocesan level, which this year we'll have the Distinguished Graduate Dinner, and that's where we recognize a graduate from every school, you know, and that's a wonderful event. It'll be my first event, so I can't talk to it too personally yet because I haven't been there, but I understand it's going to be a wonderful event that night. And then we have our All Schools Mass. I've celebrated that in 4 different dioceses, and it's just beautiful. I almost tear when I think about being able to see all the schools together in one Mass. We only can have, you know, this is a large size diocese, so we have representatives from every school. So it's going to be a wonderful event that week as well. That'll be on February 1st. Then we are going to do something new this year. You know, new superintendents kind of have to put the new stamp.
I love this.
It wasn't my idea, but
which will take it.
But you know, staff meetings, we start thinking we did some similar things in the past. We're going to have a showcase of our talent.
Oh, that's great.
The entire week at the diocesan level. So we'll have each school bring in a piece of art and then a couple of our choirs singing. So it's going to be fun. King cake, you know, all the good things. So that's what we're doing, and being able to honor our pastor and our awardees, recipients, you know, like Miss Candilora for principal, administration, and then our teacher, educator award. That's the time that we can say thank you and recognize all the good things that they bring to our schools. And, you know, we all know Catholic school administrators, our pastors, and our educators, they go beyond. You know, it's not just a job. This is their calling and passion. So I'm excited to be able to present them with this award this week. And I don't want to take all our time up.
That's beautiful. No, it's so true because we don't think about it. You know, as growing up in Catholic schools, you know, for 13 years, which is such an extraordinary experience in our lives, you know, growing up here. And then too, handing that down to our children, you know, the same experience. So it gets to be just this really faith-filled experience where not only we're experiencing, you know, encounters with the Lord in Mass every Sunday, but during school, you know, where we can pray and talk about the Lord, and through each subject, really transmit the faith and however that comes out in science and social studies. So the whole just holistic approach to, you know, encountering the Lord in Catholic schools is just, it is a gift. It's a pure gift.
And you made a point there, you know, it is a legacy that we sometimes take for granted, you know?
Yeah.
And the way that we succeed is our partnership with our parish families and our families of our students. And, you know, without this partnership, I don't think we would have this strength. And it just is a testament to the strength of our schools because of our relationships with our families. And this, too, is a week of celebration of that relationship.
Yeah.
So good point you're talking
and
about.
And each year, you know, distinguished means just someone to witness, right? To hear their story, to witness their faith. So each school submits a distinguished graduate each year who's honored at that banquet. And then on the diocesan level, you kind of pull out one in particular administrator or priest, and then the educator who we'll have on second segment. Talk about their experiences, which we're going to turn to Erin right now. So you obviously are a teacher because you weren't just a principal forever. You had to go through, you know, kind of the progress of being an educator before you were a principal. So how did you even get the calling to be a teacher? Did you know you were going to do that when you were younger?
No, that was not the.
It wasn't your plan.
Not the plan. And, you know, I always admired those people who from early on, my friends who knew what they wanted to be and went straight to college for that. And I was just kind of vacillating, you know, all over. I guess God wasn't done with me yet. But lots of hours in English, and thought maybe law school. And then my sister was like, hey, take this education class with me, because I wasn't really sure. My dad was kind of being like, okay, it's about time to make a decision. So I took the education class with her, and we went into some inner city schools, and lots of observation hours in that first class, which I thought was so smart. That was at the University of New Orleans, and really put that in front of me, like, oh, I could make a difference, or maybe I can make a difference.
Yeah.
So immediately switched to education, and so I taught high school English and high school social studies. I have a minor in history, so taught both of those. I coached at the high school level, and so we moved to Baton Rouge, and thankfully some sweet girl in our little apartment complex told me about Redemptorist, and that they were looking for an English teacher. And, you know, I think it takes a village, certainly, for children to raise them and to educate them. And I know parents really appreciate us being part of their village. I know I appreciated that for my children to go through Catholic schools and having those people walk the journey with them. But I think it also takes a journey, you know, takes a village for us. So along the way have been those people saying, hey, I think maybe you would be good at this, even though you don't see it in yourself, right? Yeah. A lot of times we don't see ourselves as a teacher or as a coach or assistant principal. I was not going for my master's in administration, but my principal at the time pushed me in that direction. I was going to library science or school counseling, and he said, no, this is what I think you should do, even though I didn't see that in myself. Yeah. So 15 years as a assistant principal, and moving to the elementary school 16 years ago was such a blessing. Because again, I thought maybe it's time to go back to law school or do something different, and then God had a better idea.
It's like, no, Erin.
And wound up at our home parish as, and then when the principal retired, then it was, I guess, again, not really thinking that was what I aspired to be, but God put me in that position, and so I'm so blessed and honored to serve our parish in such an amazing way. And with every award, it takes a village, and there's lots of people that deserve to be recognized. But I, of course, accept the award on behalf of St. Aloysius School, St. Aloysius Parish, Father Randy, who is the best boss in the world, and all the amazing people that surround me every day. That I get to watch, educate children, love children, care for children. Being in the classroom, seeing the teachers, the dedication. We have teachers who have been in Catholic education for 30, 40 years, and to see just their dedication every day. They're there before the sun comes up, and when, after the sun goes down, the dedication is so inspiring to be part of that, to be such a small part of that, and in service to them, because it's, as an administrator, we tell them, we're here to serve you. If you're happy, then the students are happy. If the students are happy, the parents are happy. Right. So what can we get you? What do you need? How can we support you? And so really taking a backseat role, even though it seems like a principal or an administrator is kind of at the front, we're really behind the scenes, making that classroom, getting the teacher everything that they need, curriculum-wise or professional development, like getting them what they need to be successful in the classroom, so that they can do the real hard work, which is educating the kids every day, kind of on the front lines, and getting their little souls to heaven. I mean, that's really what it's all about. So the academic piece is so incredible and exciting, and we spend a lot of time on that, obviously, of looking at test scores and professional development and curriculum development. But without the spiritual piece, there's really, you can have all of that, you can have wonderful test scores, but if we're not setting that foundation for them to be in eternity, then we're not a Catholic school. We're just another school. And that's okay if that's your mission, but that's certainly not the mission of the Diocese of Baton Rouge. So we're blessed and so happy to be a piece of that.
They're totally blessed to have you too. Were you surprised when you were named Distinguished Administrator? How did that affect you? I know you were humble. You're like, I'm going to be in the background.
Dr. Patty walked in the hall and she's like, well, okay, let me tell you. And I was like,
everybody gather in. I was there for a school visit, so it worked perfectly.
Yes,
and
good timing.
So we'll be able to honor you appropriately in Catholic Schools Week. But we didn't want to hold the news back because we're very excited.
Right.
We are, very blessed to have Erin and many administrators like her that recognize we're a ministry, and the people that encouraged you. That's so important, that we recognize the talent in people and say, hey, this is a great fit for you. Thanks for answering the call.
And what I was hearing too from your story is that because of those that have encouraged you, you are now turning around, setting that foundation of hope and encouragement for the people that God has placed in front of you to serve as well. So that's
I hope to do that for for someone else to say, hey, I see that in you, or hey, you might be a priest one day, or you may be a great administrator to take over, in the next generation of Catholic education.
And we always remember our principles too. So.
Yes.
So our time is wound down. We're so excited for you. Congratulations on that. Congratulations on the Blue Ribbon Award too that St. Aloysius got a few years ago. Just so grateful for all that you do to pour your hearts into Catholic education and sharing the faith, being those frontline evangelizers for our youth, and then so they can pour it into their families too. Thank you for being with us, Dr. Patty, too, and introducing us to Catholic Schools Week.
Every time I visit with you.
I know, I think it's great. In our next segment, we're going to talk with Claire Willis, Assistant Superintendent of Catholic Schools, and Josh Zeringue, who is the Distinguished Educator. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I would like to propose that educators add new content to their teaching. Fraternity. Education is an act of love that illuminates the path for us to recover a sense of fraternity. So we will not ignore those who are most vulnerable. Educators are witnesses who not only impart their mental knowledge, but also their convictions, their commitment to life. They know how to handle the three languages well, that of the head, that of the heart, and that of the hands, all in harmony, and hence the joy in communicating. And they will be heeded much more attentively and will become community builders. Why? Because they're sowing this testimony. Let us pray that educators may be credible witnesses, teaching fraternity rather than confrontation, and helping especially the youngest and most vulnerable above all.
We are the fog on your glasses. We are the cup to go at breakfast. We are the answer to your deadline. We are closing the deal. But more than anything, we are never being out of coffee ever again. Never. We are River Road Coffees, and we're ready to prove that our coffee is better than whatever coffee you're drinking at the office. Call us today for a side-by-side taste test so you can get powered by River Road Coffees.
Welcome back to Catholic Life as we spotlight ordinary people with extraordinary faith. So this is our second segment celebrating Catholic Schools Week here in the Diocese of Baton Rouge. And we are so blessed to have Claire Willis, who's the Assistant Superintendent of Catholic Schools here, and Josh Zeringue, who is your social studies teacher? Is that right?
Yes,
at St. Michael the Archangel High School and distinguished educator this year, which is amazing. So we're going to get your story in just a minute. But I wanted to kind of go back with Claire and talk about kind of the mission, just remind us of the mission of Catholic schools and during Catholic Schools Week, what are we really trying to bring out for people?
Sure. So, we talked a bit in the last segment about Catholic Schools Week being a celebration of the people who come together to celebrate that ministry of our Catholic Church, which is to educate and inform young people. But I think that one of the big celebrations too is about the impact that our educators have on the young people, because it is more than just educating their minds, but also evangelizing their hearts. And so it's not just about who we are there, but what we teach, how we teach it, how it forms them to become citizens in this global world, to go out and further evangelize and spread the good news, and to form their hearts to be those people who love Christ, and who will become a part of the church themselves, and perpetuating that also. So that's why it's really exciting to get to talk to one of our frontline workers in this work, who is having that direct impact on high school students in our area, and how it's forming them to be our future for us. So, but that's, I think, one of the beautiful things about Catholic schools is, I think if you talk to anybody who's gone into education as their vocation, whether it be even in public schools, they knew that it was a work of heart. Nobody goes into it because it's paying all the bills and setting you up for retirement, but it is something that they know as a calling. The difference is if they go to work in a Catholic school, they get to proclaim it loudly. This is not just a calling, but it's something we do to, because we know that it's a work of mission and a ministry of sorts, and we just call it that directly. It is a ministry. And so, speaking to educators and being an educator myself, we know that that's what it is. We get to say it every day when we work in a Catholic school, and really infuse it in what we do. And so that's one of the beauties of our Catholic schools and the value of Catholic education.
Yeah, it's so important to be able, especially because you're building for the future, not only for the human person themselves, for the children through virtue, through life in Christ, but also to the opportunity to just enculturate the society, right? And have the faith permeate, throughout society, wherever they are and whatever they do. It was such an inspiration. And all of us were impacted in some way, shape, or form by Catholic education, whether it's through our parishes, through our families, and namely through Catholic schools that we're emphasizing this week too.
Right.
So let's turn to our distinguished educator, Josh Zeringue. This is really exciting. Do your students know that you're educator of the year?
They know now. Yes, they've been very supportive and kind.
Have they?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay, let's take a step back a little bit. Talk about how you became an educator yourself. What inspired you to become a teacher?
Sure. Well, when I first went to college, my intention was to be a lawyer because I liked thinking hard. I liked arguing, debating, that sort of thing. But as a freshman, I had a professor who was a history professor, and he just told ancient history like a great story. And that was the other thing I'd always loved, was storytelling, fiction, nonfiction. And I thought that would be so fun to be able to tell these stories from history in an exciting way that engages people's imaginations and inspires them. And so I thought about it a little while, and then I decided that's what I was going to do. So I pursued a double major in theology and history.
Wow.
And then,
Yeah, that's great. That's the best of both worlds. Honestly, because how much of our faith really has an impact on the history of the world, right? So salvation history, world history, his story, history, goes together. So how did you get to the Diocese of Baton Rouge at St. Michael's? Did you teach before that?
No, this is my first teaching position. I've been at St. Michael's for 7 years, and I've really enjoyed it. There's Miss Ellen Lee, the principal. She's very kind. She's great. I've had some great mentors there. But how I got there, so I did my undergraduate work in Virginia at Christendom College, and I met a Virginia girl and married her. But we moved back down here. Honestly, we were pursuing in-state tuition. And so I was in grad school for a while. I worked some lawn maintenance, and then we stayed in Baton Rouge. I heard great things about St. Michael's from a friend who had worked there. Dropped the application, and I have not regret. I've enjoyed it. It's a good environment. It's a good family.
So you teach freshmen then, is that correct?
I've taught freshmen before. They take government. In the past few years, though, I've been teaching mostly juniors and seniors because I've been teaching AP US History, AP European, African American Studies. So.
Wow. So what's the impact that they have on you when you're kind of sharing the stories of history, and how does the faith intertwine with that?
I think what's great about Catholic education and Catholic history is we just have this very rich intellectual tradition as well that we can tap into. You go back to Augustine. I love teaching AP Euro, where we can talk about people like Erasmus and Thomas More and how they are a sort of a nexus between Christianity and the humanist values that were emerging, and you just get something great out of that. And so I think I just really enjoy that we have this rich intellectual tradition, all these thinkers who've influenced the human conversation. The other thing that is really, I think, we bring to the table is the Catholic Church has this rich social teaching, right? Yeah. And that's where it came in a lot with government, even though in other courses as well, but just a very fleshed out, well thought out social teaching, the value of every human life, right? Anti-racism, the universal destination of good. So it is intellectual, but it's also, we have practical things to offer, valuable things to offer.
And how does it motivate you to teach that with the lens of faith? You know, because Catholic social teaching is a universal calling, whether you call it Catholic or not. You can call it social teaching, right? Yeah. Because it applies. Right. But how's it from you inspiring that you can incorporate the faith into that to where that permeates not just Catholics, but everyone?
Right. I think, so we get so caught up as a society in our partisanship, arguing about politics. And I mean, those are valuable debates we have, but the Catholic Church just brings this outside perspective, right? So we can help elevate students' intellects, imagination by showing them that there's this idea that can transcend sort of the gutter politics, if you will. Yeah. And even if you're not a Catholic, I think that's a valuable lesson there, that there's something deeper about being human than just our petty squabbles. Yeah. And when we realize that, then we can hopefully work these issues out better as a society, be more responsible citizens. So that's...
And I guess just teaching them the art of dialogue too, and listening. I think that's really important too for our young people, because there's a lot of yelling, right?
Exactly.
There's a lot of yelling. And I think for you, your approach, what's inspiring to me is that, okay, well, we have squabbles. This is good. It's real. But at the same time, too, how can we approach the table together to understand each other and then agree to disagree or work things out or work things through? Yeah. Do you see that they respond to that? I mean, is that something that's real tangible for the young people?
I do think I think they're interested in seeing in the value of that. They see so much of the negative that when you can present this as a positive thing, and you can, and we reinforce too, it's not bad that you have opinions or you're making arguments. That is great, but we want to do it in a mature way. We want to do it in a way that's constructive, right? And I think they see value in that. I think they understand that that's a path forward as a people.
So how has this impacted your life? You know, like you go to you serve every day. Some people say in the trenches. I just rather say we're in the vineyard, right? So as educators, you're in the vineyard of the Lord. But you know, at the end of the day, what are your thoughts, you know, on being an educator in this day and age and this time?
I think that it's a privilege in many ways, right? Because we're in a interesting place in human history. We're the first internet generation. We're dealing with issues of digital citizenship they've never had to deal with. People have never had to deal with before. So we are on the front lines in that way. But rather than getting stressed out about that, I think it's just an opportunity. Like it's just a pleasure to be there and do that.
Pope Francis talks a lot about digital citizenship in this new directory on catechesis, which you may or may not be familiar with, but he really points out the opportunity for evangelization through that platform, you know, of the internet, and how can we grasp that, you know, and educate ourselves in such a way that our young people and our older people can respond to that. We're the generation in our 50s where we kind of had a little bit of both, you know, so we're not afraid of computers, but at the same time too, you're like, whoa, internet is a lot of people, you know. So actually helping them temper, think the other beauty about what you teach is that you're opening their eyes to what has been and how history at times can emulate itself, it could repeat itself, or look like itself in such a way, and how we respond to that, through virtue. I mean, do you see that happening for them, or you're teaching things, you're like, wait a minute, this is not a foreign concept for us?
Yeah, I think, and that's one of the big things we're emphasizing in our AP curriculum as well, of course, continuity and change over time. What kind of are these eternal things about the human condition, but also what changes in different situations and whatnot. So we can bring them that nuance. We can learn from the past while moving into new situations. And that's kind of the great thing about Catholic education. As I said, we stand on the shoulders of giants, but we're also looking to the future, right? Yeah. We're trying to build a better world.
Yeah, and lead them to eternity too. So, and we have a couple of minutes left. So, what about encouraging people to become an educator? Or those that are educators, and inviting them to think about serving in Catholic schools?
I mean, if you didn't just listen to all of that and be like, can I please go sit in that class? I love it so much. I can only imagine how just engaged your students are with the way that you are approaching not just the history, but also the thinking that comes with it. I think really it's about that opportunity, right? Especially if you are an adult who kind of gets frustrated with kids these days, right? Like what they go through and what they don't seem to understand. This is the prime opportunity to help form the way that they think and approach the future is through education. And we have so many avenues where people from any different background who has life experience can become an educator and not only help with them learn content, because the content is important, but what we're learning more and more is that the content really only matters as much as the way we have them think about the content, because we are teaching them and preparing them for a future we can't even visualize yet.
That's true.
So it's really not about okay, so you're not a math expert, doesn't matter. Can you think and solve problems? Yeah. Can you approach something and come up with a solution in a new and novel way? So if you're a person who just likes to think about solving a problem, becoming an educator might be the way to solve the problem, all the problems, and really have impact on children in a very different way. Not to mention it's fun. Schools are fun places to be.
Yeah, I know. I was talking to an 8th grader the other day, and she said that in their social studies class, they were given colored pencils to do a project. She's like, colored pencils? I'm like, you get to color with colored pencils? I would love to do that. I mean, I gave a retreat for teachers last week, and they colored. That was part of our, one of our meditation things was making prayer boxes, and they colored.
How often do you get to dress up for work?
I know, right?
Probably pretty regularly, right?
Yeah, exactly. Gosh, thank you so much for doing what you do. So grateful. Yeah, a lot of young people remember their impressionable teachers, for a long time. So I'm sure. A lot of good kids. Yeah, and I'm sure that what you're pouring into them is something that they're going to be able to take out into the world. So thank you, Josh Zeringue, for what you do every day. And congratulations on being a distinguished educator. Appreciate it. That's really a good thing. That's great. Thanks, Claire, for what you do too. Catholic Schools Office Assistant Dr. Patty and everybody else, in our Diocesan offices. So grateful. Thank you for being with us on Catholic Life this week. Until next time, may God bless you and grant you His peace.